This is the story of Andrew Luck, even before what's come out now, was pretty interesting. I thought, and I still keep thinking this is going to happen more. Andrew Luck was Andrew Luck the first player picked in the draft of, is that right? By the Indianapolis Colts. He gave them the ability to say goodbye to Peyton Manning. And it actually made sense. So Andrew Luck was the heir apparent. And Andrew Luck was, I believe, the first player taken in the draft of, it's been a long time. And he was a blue chip high school player out of Houston. He went to Stanford. Brilliant guy. I believe he got an architecture degree, which is, it takes forever at any school, not to mention Stanford. And so he just was this prototype. He was everything you scripted out to be a quarterback. He was it. He was like, I thought he was kind of a faster version, more athletic version of Troy Aikman. Big guy, big frame, athletic as heck, could throw like her. I mean, he just was one of the best prospects at quarterback in decades. And people talked about him being one of the best prospects at quarterback in decades. He quits before he's the age of 30. And he didn't quit because he had, I think a lot of us thought at the time when he quit. I mean, he just flat out quit. We thought, well, there's some terrible illness, there's some terrible injury. No. He walked away because he said, and it was a really interesting moment. He said, I'm tired of hurting all the time. I'm sick of it. He just got sick of how you feel playing football all the time. And it made a lot of sense. And I remember a lot of players talked about it. I said, yeah, I think we all feel that way. We're just not going to walk away. And the Colts had just given him I believe it was a $29 million bonus, and he walked away. Now, he knew, and it was a public debate about having to give the money back. And he said, if they want the money back, then I'll do that. So Andrew Luck walks away from football before the age of 30. He's lost weight now. He's got kids. He looks like he weighs about 180 pounds now. Has never, that I know of, has never once said he wanted to play football again. He's just an interesting story that it wasn't one thing that drove him out of football. It was the fact that the guy just couldn't live the life of football because he hurt all the time. So he walked away. Never, you didn't hear much from him again. And the Colts have been a mess ever since. They have been a mess. So, long story short, oddly enough, I mean, his story is amazing. And then the other part of this is unbelievably pathetic. You know how bad Washington must be? The owner of the Colts is now accusing Washington FC, the football team in Washington, of tampering with Andrew Luck. Yeah, they've been trying to hire him. He hasn't played in years, and they were trying to get him. And so now, even though he said no, which I think is weird, the owner of the Colts is coming after, I wasn't going to say Redskins. I was going to say Washington FC. So he tweeted out, they've attempted to contact Andrew Luck to play for their franchise. He tweets, it would be a clear violation of the league's tampering policy, which is true. And here's why it's true. It's just really kind of sad. If you've reached this low, if the quarterback position is so bad, you're going to try to find a guy who's at a playground right now with his kids on a swing who weighs about 170 pounds, who hasn't done anything in 5 years. You're so desperate, you reached out to him? It's that bad? That might restart the Colin Kaepernick argument all over again. I mean, he's even said, I don't want to play anything anymore. It's been years. It's been 5 years. So he says it's a clear violation of the league's tampering policy. Andrew Luck retired unexpectedly at the age of 29 with 3 years remaining on his contract. The Colts, get this, at the time, it sounded like a brilliant move. The Colts declined to attempt to recoup the signing bonus payments they had made and instead allowed him to keep $24.8 million. They did that because if they allowed him to keep the money, guess what? They would still own his rights. So the thinking at the time was, which I kind of agreed with, was Yeah, if you make him give back the money, what's he going to do? He's going to bail on you and go somewhere else and go to a decent franchise and go on with his career. So they decided to say, no, it's cool. You keep the money. But if you keep the money, guess what? We own you. So when you think you want to play for someone else, you're not. I thought it was a brilliant move. Turns out he didn't want to play for someone else. He just hated playing football. So he had $25 million to walk away. In response, the Colts are now saying anyone that has contacted him is guilty of tampering. That would be Washington. All these years later, they apparently have reached out to him. Now, this is not Tom Brady a month removed from football. It's like, I'm trying to think of the equivalent here. I mean, even Colin Kaepernick, even though nobody owns his rights, but even Colin Kaepernick might make more sense than Andrew Luck at this point. So I know he's only 34, 35, something like that. Yeah, but he's lost all that weight. He you know how when you're the dad thing and you do the backpack with a little baby on the front? He's that guy. That's what he's doing. They're calling him up and he's taking kids in a minivan, probably a nice one, in a minivan to play soccer with some juice boxes. He looks like me. And they reached out to try to sign him, and so the Colts are coming after them as if they didn't have enough problems. Desperate, it says, Yahoo is reporting a desperate Commanders team apparently kicked the tires on the idea last season of signing Luck. It raises tampering violation concerns that Irsay sounds fully ready to pursue. Aren't you glad you bought the Washington franchise? Nice. Teams aren't allowed to contact players who are under contract with other teams. So, I don't know if I can blame the Colts, but they let him keep the money and let him keep the money so they would retain his rights for several years to come. I don't know how another team would have known that, but now the Colts are saying, we're coming after you. You know what they're going to try to get. You do know how they're going to play this. They're out $25 million. You know what they're going to want? They're going to want draft picks.